My mother-in-law laughed at my mother's accent in the middle of Marcelli's, a northern Italian restaurant where the cheapest entree costs $38 and the wine list has its own leather binder. We were celebrating my husband's promotion. 8 people at a round table in the back, white tablecloths, candles. The kind of place where the waiters wear vests and introduce themselves with their full names. My mother had just asked for water. Water, please, no ice, when my mother-in-law Patricia let out this light tinkling laugh and said loud enough for the entire table to hear, "How charming, Vader." Like you're straight off the boat, my mother's face didn't change. She'd had 43 years of practice keeping her expression neutral when people mocked the way she spoke. I watched my husband Marcus look down at his menu. I watched my father-in-law Gerald adjust his glasses. Nobody said anything. Then our waiter approached the table, mid-40s, salt and pepper hair, professional smile. He was holding a wine bottle. Patricia had ordered a $340 Barolo shed selected to properly celebrate. But when he got to our table, he stopped. He looked at my mother. His expression changed. The professional smile became something real. "Mrs. Koslov." My mother looked up. He set the wine down and actually bowed slightly. "I didn't realize you were dining here tonight. Welcome, it's an honor, boss." Boss. He called my immigrant mother, the woman whose accent Patricia had just mocked, boss. And the look on my mother-in-law's face in that moment is something I'm still savoring 2 years later, because some people spend their whole lives collecting status symbols. My mother spent hers building something real. Nina, 29. If you're watching this, please subscribe to Echo of Justice Stories and let me know where you're watching from, because what happened after the waiter called my mother, boss, didn't just change one dinner. It changed my marriage, my relationship with my in-laws, and the way I understood my own mother's story. And I'm still unpacking it all. I need to tell you about both mothers, because this story is about the space between who people think you are and who you actually are. My mother, Irina Koslov, came to the United States from Ukraine in 1981. She was 19 years old. She spoke almost no English. She had $200 in cash, 1 suitcase, and a cousin in Brooklyn who'd agreed to let her sleep on her couch for 2 months. By the time those 2 months were up, my mother had 3 jobs, cleaning offices at night, working at a bakery in the morning, and doing alterations for a dry cleaner on weekends. She met my father, Dmitry, at a community center ESL class in 1983. He was from Odessa. He worked construction. They got married at City Hall 3 months later. I was born in 1994. We lived in a 1-bedroom apartment in Sheepshead Bay until I was 12. My mother still worked 3 jobs. My father still worked construction, but they saved everything. My mother's English got better, but it never lost the accent, the hard consonants, the W's that sounded like V's, the articles she sometimes dropped entirely. Nina, you go to store, instead of Nina, you go to the store. Growing up, I was embarrassed by it. The way other kids would stare when she picked me up from school, the way cashiers would speak slower and louder, like she was hard of hearing and not just learning English as her 3rd language, the way she'd pack my lunch stuffed cabbage rolls, borscht in a thermos, and kids would ask, "What is that?" "It smells weird," I asked her once when I was 14 why she didn't try harder to sound more American. She looked at me for a long moment. "I try plenty hard, Ninochka. But accent is not where I put my energy. You understand when you older, I didn't understand." Not until that dinner, Patricia is what my husband calls old Connecticut money. Her family has a house in Greenwich that's been in the family since 1962. She went to Vassar. She sits on the board of a children's literacy nonprofit where she works 4 hours a week and calls it giving back. She married Gerald Chen, my father-in-law, in 1989. Gerald is a 2nd-generation Chinese-American cardiologist, brilliant kind, quiet to the point of invisibility in his own marriage. They have 2 sons, Marcus, my husband, and his younger brother, Jeremy. Marcus and I met in college, NYU. He was studying finance. I was studying social work. We dated for 3 years before he brought me home to meet his parents. I remember that visit clearly. Patricia opened the door. She was wearing cream linen pants and a silk blouse. Her hair was professionally blown out. She looked at me and smiled. "Nina." How lovely Marcus has told us so much about you. We sat in their living room, 14-foot ceilings, original hardwood art on the walls that I later learned was worth more than my parents' entire apartment. Patricia asked about my family. My father does contracting work. My mother does alterations and some business consulting. Business consulting was how my mother described what she did. I didn't fully understand it at the time. How? Interesting, Patricia said. And where are they from originally? Ukraine? Oh, immigrants. How wonderful this country was built on immigration. She said it the way people say things they've been told they're supposed to say. Later in the car, Marcus said, "That went well." I think I nodded, but I'd seen something in Patricia's eyes when I said, Ukraine. A small flicker, a categorization happening in real-time immigrant family working class. Not quite our caliber. The first time my parents met, Marcus' parents, was at a restaurant in Midtown Patricia's Choice, a French place called Le Diamant. My mother wore her nicest dress, navy blue simple from Macy's. Shed had her hair done that morning. Patricia wore Chanel. I know because she mentioned it. This old thing? Chanel from the 90s, I can't bear to part with it. The dinner was polite, painful, like watching two species try to communicate through glass. Patricia asked my mother about Ukraine. It must have been so difficult leaving your home was necessary. My mother said in Soviet time, not so many opportunity. Of course, and you've done so well for yourself, Dmitri, too. It takes such courage to start over. She said it kindly, but there was something underneath. A tone that made start over sound like start from nothing. My father, who speaks better English than my mother, but says far less, nodded. We work hard, I can see that. And Nina is just wonderful, so grounded. You must be very proud. My mother smiled. We very proud. After dinner in the car ride home, my mother was quiet. What did you think I asked? She looked out the window. She is very polite. That's what my mother said when she didn't like someone but was too dignified to say it. Very polite over the next 3 years as Marcus and I got more serious and eventually married. Patricia's politeness continued, but so did the small cuts. At our engagement party, she introduced my mother to her friends as Nina's mother, who came here from Russia, Ukraine. My mother corrected gently. Oh yes, of course I always mix those up. You don't mix those up, if you're listening. At my bridal shower, Patricia gave a speech about how love crosses all boundaries, cultural, social, economic. She said it like she was congratulating Marcus for being open-minded enough to marry someone whose parents didn't summer in the Hamptons. At the wedding, she made a point of complimenting my mother's dress, Irina. You look so lovely. Where did you find that dress? I make it my... Mother said. Patricia blinked. You made it, yes. I do. Alterations long time I sew. How resourceful, resourceful. The word you use when you can't say impressive because you don't actually think it's impressive. The accent comment started small. Irina, I love the way you say water. It's so continental. Irina, your English is really quite good. How long have you been here now? 40 years. Remarkable. Nina, does your mother ever think about taking a pronunciation class? Not that she needs to, of course, just if she wanted to. That last one she said to me, not to my mother. Like my mother was a project that needed fixing, I told Marcus. He sighed. That's just how my mom is. She doesn't mean anything by it. She's being condescending, she's being mom. Just ignore it, but you can't ignore something that happens every time your families are in the same room. Marcus got promoted in November. Senior vice president at his firm, big raise, big title. The kind of thing Patricia had been waiting for since he graduated. She insisted on hosting a celebration dinner somewhere appropriate for the occasion. She said, I'm thinking Marcellus Marcellus was the kind of restaurant where you needed a reservation 3 weeks in advance and the waiters remembered your name if you'd been there more than twice. Patricia had been going there for years. Well, make it a family dinner, she said, both families. To celebrate Marcus properly, I asked Marcus if this was a good idea. It's fine, it's one dinner. My mom's excited. Your mom has never invited my parents to anything. She's trying to give her credit. I called my mother. Patricia wants to take everyone to dinner to celebrate Marcus. My mother was quiet for a moment. This is very nice of her. You don't have to come if you don't want to. Of course I come is important for Marcus and for you. November 17th, Saturday, 7:00 p.m. reservation. We arrived at Marcellus at 6:55. The restaurant was beautiful. Low lighting exposed brick, the smell of garlic and wine, and bread baking somewhere in the back. Patricia and Gerald were already there. Seated at a round table near the window, Patricia stood when she saw us. She kissed Marcus on both cheeks, European style, which she'd never done before, and which felt like a performance. Darling, congratulations. We're so proud. She hugged me. Quick, efficient Nina. You look nice. I was wearing a dress I'd bought specifically for this dinner. $180 at Nordstrom, which was more than I usually spent. She was wearing something that probably cost 4 figures. My parents arrived 10 minutes later, my father in a suit, my mother in a dark green dress. She'd made herself simple and elegant. Patricia greeted them with the same bright, polite smile she always used. Irina, Dmitri. So glad you could join us. We sat. Patricia had arranged the seating. She was at the head of the table naturally, Gerald to her right, Marcus to her left, then me, then my mother, then my father, then Marcus's brother Jeremy and his girlfriend. The waiter came, tall, lean, maybe mid-40s. He introduced himself. Good evening, Thomas will be taking care of you tonight. Patricia smiled. Thomas, wonderful, we're celebrating tonight. My son just made senior VP. Thomas congratulated. Marcus handed out menus. Patricia took the wine list. I'll choose the wine. I know this list quite well. She ordered without asking anyone's preference. A $340 Barolo. It's a special occasion, she said. The appetizers came. Burrata for the table. Octopus beef carpaccio. My mother took a small portion of burrata. She ate slowly, carefully, the way she always did in nice restaurants. Patricia was telling a story about someone she knew who'd just purchased a home in the Berkshires. Can you imagine? $23 million for a weekend house. But I suppose if you have it, why not spend it? She laughed. My mother was quiet. She always was in these settings. Not because she had nothing to say, because she'd learned that staying quiet was safer than speaking and being corrected. Patricia turned to her. Irina, you're so quiet. What do you think? Would you ever buy a vacation home? My mother smiled politely. We are happy with what we have, of course. Sensible, you've always struck me as very sensible people. There it was again, that word, sensible. The compliment that wasn't. The entrees were ordered. The Barolo was poured. My mother took a sip and set her glass down. The waiter came by to refill water glasses. My mother looked up at him. Water, please, no ice. And Patricia laughed. It wasn't loud, it wasn't cruel, it was worse. It was light and tinkling and social, the kind of laugh you make at a cocktail party when someone says something quaint. Vater, she repeated, smiling. How charming, like you're straight off the boat. The table went silent. My father's hand tightened around his fork. Marcus looked down at his menu. Even though we'd already ordered, Gerald adjusted his glasses and said nothing. I stared at Patricia. She was still smiling like she'd just made a friendly observation and not a humiliating comment about the way my mother spoke after 43 years in this country. My mother's face didn't change. She just nodded slightly, took a sip of her water. Vater, I opened my mouth to say something. I don't even know what, something sharp, something defensive. But before I could, Thomas the waiter reappeared. He was holding the wine bottle Patricia had ordered. He approached the table and then he stopped. He looked at my mother, really looked. His expression changed. Mrs. Koslov. My mother looked up at the waiter. There was a beat of recognition. Her eyes widened slightly. Thomas? He broke into a genuine smile. The kind that changes someone's whole face. I thought that was you. I didn't realize you were dining here tonight. He set the wine bottle down on the table and actually bowed slightly, a small respectful nod. Welcome, it's an honor, boss. Boss. The word hung in the air like a soap bubble, fragile and iridescent and impossible to ignore. Patricia's smile froze. I watched my mother's face. She looked almost embarrassed. Thomas, you don't have to. Of course I do. If I'd known you were coming, I would have made sure you got the corner table. Your usual. Patricia's eyes narrowed just slightly. I'm sorry, she said, voice still light but with an edge now. Do you two know each other? Thomas looked at Patricia, then back at my mother. Mrs. Koslov is one of the owners of the restaurant group. She's my boss. Well, one of them. The table went completely silent. Not polite silence, shocked silence. Patricia's mouth actually opened slightly. I stared at my mother. Mom. My mother looked uncomfortable. She waved her hand dismissively. It's not important now. We are here for Marcus, for celebration. But Thomas was still smiling. Are you kidding? Of course it's important, Mrs. Koslov. Mr. Rinaldi was asking about you yesterday. He wanted to know if you'd reviewed the proposal for the new location. New location. I couldn't process what I was hearing. Mom, I said again. What is he talking about? My mother set down her water glass. She looked at me, then at Marcus, then briefly at Patricia, whose face had gone from frozen shock to something approaching mortification. I was going to tell you, she said to me. I just was waiting for right time. Tell me what, she sighed. I am part owner of Marcelli Group, this restaurant, 2 others in City 1 in Boston. We are opening new location in Philadelphia next year. I couldn't speak. My father, who'd been silent this entire time, put his hand over my mother's. Your mother is very humble, he said to me. She does not like to, how you say, make big deal of success. Marcus found his voice. Wait. You own this restaurant. Part own, my mother corrected, is partnership, 4 of us. We start 12 years ago. 12 years ago. I was 17. We were still living in the 1-bedroom apartment. How did I not know this? My mother looked almost apologetic. We talk about it, I tell you. I do business consulting, yes. This is the business. I help restaurants with operations, with management, with money. Then opportunity come to invest to become partner, so I do. Thomas was still standing there looking pleased. Mrs. Koslov is being modest. She basically saved this place. When she came on, we were 3 months from closing. She restructured everything. Now we're one of the top-rated Italian restaurants in the city. He said it with pride, like he was talking about a celebrity. Patricia had gone very pale. My mother looked at me. I know it's big surprise. I don't like to talk about money. I don't like to make people feel uncomfortable. She said it gently. But her eyes flicked to Patricia for just a fraction of a second, and I understood. My mother had known for years. She'd known exactly how Patricia saw her. The immigrant who cleaned houses and did alterations and spoke with an accent, and she'd let her think that. Not because she was ashamed, because she was dignified, because correcting someone's assumptions is exhausting, and sometimes it's easier to let people underestimate you. Thomas excused himself to put in an order. The table sat in excruciating silence. Finally, Gerald spoke, Gerald, who almost never spoke. Irina, that's remarkable. Truly, you should be very proud. My mother smiled at him, a real smile. Thank you, Gerald. Patricia cleared her throat. I had no idea you were so successful. The word came out strangled. It's okay, my mother said. I don't talk about it much. But you own restaurants, multiple restaurants. Part own is partnership. Still, that's quite an accomplishment. Patricia was trying to recover, trying to reframe, but there was no reframing this. She'd spent 3 years condescending to a woman who owned the restaurant we were sitting in, a woman who'd built a multi-million-dollar business from 3 jobs and an accent. I looked at my mother with completely new eyes. Mom, why didn't you tell me? I tell you, I do business consulting. You said you helped restaurants with their books. I do, and also I own them. She shrugged. You never ask for details. She was right, I'd never asked. I'd assumed, like everyone else, that business consulting was a generous description of bookkeeping work. I'd underestimated my own mother. Somehow we kept eating. The entrees came handmade pasta osso buco branzino. Thomas brought everything personally. He kept checking on my mother. Is everything to your liking, Mrs. Koslov? Is perfect, Thomas, thank you. Patricia barely touched her food. She kept looking at my mother like she was a puzzle she couldn't solve. At one point, she tried to recover some ground. Irina M. just so impressed. You came here with nothing and built all this. My mother looked at her. I did not come with nothing. I come with education. I have degree in economics from Kiev University, and I come with willingness to work. That is not nothing. Patricia blinked. Of course I didn't mean. I know what you mean, it was said quietly, politely, but it was a line drawn. My mother wasn't going to let Patricia rewrite history now that the context had changed. When the meal ended, Thomas brought the check. He set it in front of Patricia as she'd been the one ordering wine and clearly hosting. The total, $8.90. Patricia reached for her credit card. Thomas coughed politely. Actually, Mrs. Whitmore Chen, there's no charge. Mrs. Koslov's guests always dine complimentary. Patricia's hand froze. That's not necessary. It's policy, Thomas said smoothly. My mother shook her head. Thomas, please, is fine. They can pay. Mrs. Koslov, Mr. Rinaldi would have my head if I charged you or your family. He smiled at me, at Marcus. You're family now too, he said to us. Patricia slowly put her credit card back in her wallet. The humiliation on her face was complete. She'd planned this dinner to celebrate her son, to show off maybe, to remind my family of the difference in our stations. And instead she'd been bought dinner by the woman whose accent she'd mocked 20 minutes earlier. We said goodbye outside. The air was cold November in New York, sharp and clean. Patricia hugged Marcus, told him again how proud she was. She turned to me. The hug was stiff. Lovely dinner. Then she turned to my mother. For a moment I thought she might not say anything, but she did. Irina, I owe you an apology. My mother waited. I made an ignorant comment earlier. About your accent, it was inappropriate. Was hurtful, my mother corrected gently, but I accept apology. Patricia nodded. She looked smaller somehow. Gerald shook my father's hand, told my mother the food was excellent. They got in their car and left. My parents stood with Marcus and me in the parking lot. Mom, I said, I don't even know what to say. She smiled, touched my cheek. You don't have to say nothing. I am still same person. I still your mama. But you're also a restaurant mogul. She laughed. Mogul is big word. I am business owner. I work hard, same as always. Marcus looked shell-shocked. Mrs. Koslov, I had no idea. I'm so sorry, my mother. My mother held up her hand. Your mother learned something today is okay. Sometimes people need to learn. In the car, Marcus drove in silence for 5 minutes. Then, I can't believe my mother said that. She said worse, I said. Not in front of everyone. She didn't think it mattered. She didn't think anyone important was listening. He flinched. Nina, I'm not angry at you, Marcus. I'm angry at the situation. At the fact that your mother spent 3 years condescending to mine and I let it happen because I thought I don't know. I thought she was right to. He looked at me. What? I thought your family was better than mine, richer, more educated, more American. Nina. And my mom let me think that she never corrected me. Never bragged, never mentioned that she owned restaurants or had a business degree or was successful. Why not? Because that's not who she is. She doesn't measure herself by what Patricia thinks. She measures herself by whether she did the work. Marcus pulled into our building's garage. My mom's going to spiral over this. Good, I said. He looked shocked. Nina. Marcus, your mother has been treating mine like she's less than for 3 years. Let her sit with being wrong. Patricia didn't call for 2 weeks. When she finally did, it was to me. Nina. I'd like to take you to lunch. We met at a cafe in Greenwich. She was already there when I arrived, no Chanel this time, just a simple sweater and slacks. Thank you for meeting me, she said. I wanted to apologize properly. Okay, I made assumptions about your mother, about your family, and I was wrong. Not just wrong, cruel. I waited. I've been thinking about why I did that, and I think I needed to feel superior to someone. And your mother was easy to diminish because she has an accent and she doesn't perform her success. She doesn't need to perform it, I said. She just has it. Patricia nodded. I know that now. Do you? Because you've spent 3 years making her feel small, and she never once corrected you. She just let you think you were better. Do you understand how much grace that took? Patricia's eyes filled. I do now. Here's what I learned from watching my mother be underestimated and then revealed. Some people wear their accomplishments like armor. My mother wore hers like a coat she didn't need in summer there, but not necessary for the weather. She didn't need Patricia to know she owned restaurants. She didn't need anyone to know. She knew. And that was enough. For 43 years, people have heard my mother's accent and made assumptions that she's less educated, less intelligent, less successful, and my mother has let them. Not because she's ashamed, but because correcting every person who underestimates you is exhausting, and sometimes the best revenge isn't proving people wrong. It's letting them discover they were wrong on their own. I asked my mother later why she never told me about the restaurants. I tell you I do business consulting, she said, but you didn't tell me you owned them. You didn't ask. And also, Ninochka, I don't want you to love me because I am successful. I want you to love me because I am your mama. She was right. I should have loved her without needing her to be impressive by Patricia's standards. I should have known that a woman who learned 3 languages, raised a daughter, and worked 3 jobs while saving enough to invest in a business was already impressive. But I didn't see it until someone called her boss, and that's on me. Nina 29. My mother-in-law mocked my mother's accent at dinner. Then the waiter called her boss. And everything my mother-in-law thought she knew about class and success and worth collapsed in one sentence. If you've ever been underestimated because of how you sound, where you're from, or what people assume about you, I need you to hear this. Let them underestimate you, build your empire quietly, and wait. Because the best moment isn't when you tell people who you are. It's when they find out on their own, and there's nothing they can do but sit with how wrong they were. My mother owns 4 restaurants now. She still has an accent, she still says Vader instead of water, and she's still the most successful person in any room she walks into, not because of what she owns, because of what she built. If your family has ever been looked down on for not fitting someone's idea of success, tell me about it in the comments. I read every single one. And if you want to hear what happened when Patricia asked my mother for business advice 6 months later, that story is coming. Hit subscribe to Echo of Justice Stories so you don't miss it. Check the description for another story about underestimated immigrants and the people who learned the hard way not to judge. Your accent doesn't make you less, your humility doesn't make you weak, and the people who underestimate you, they're learning a lesson you don't need to teach.